Mr. Chairman, we're live.
Un-American. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we're back into the public portion of our management audit committee meeting. For the members of the audience that may be online, is there anyone online actually right now observing us? I'm just curious. Can you tell?
Representative Gray is online, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Gray. All right. Shout out to Representative Gray, who's sticking with us remotely. We have Mr. Garrett in the room with us as a member of the public, so welcome to him. Just to recap what we did this morning, since we did convene at 8:30, then we went into an executive session. There was a motion. It was not done on the camera. I apologize for that. That was on me. Motion to go into executive session. It was seconded, and we proceeded into executive session after a vote. We heard from a review of the contracts evaluation from our staff, Ms. Smith and Ms. Nord, and then we had interactions with our A&I, ETS, and Attorney General's office regarding the audit, and now we are coming out to have a discussion on that. So first order of business, nothing from the committee immediately, anything from staff immediately. All right, so members of the Management Audit Committee, we have done our statutory obligation to receive comments from the agencies who were under evaluation, under audit, and then conduct an interview with them in executive session. And now it is our prerogative to release or not release the report, either in a total or in part, to the public. So, committee, what's your pleasure? There's a motion and a second by the senators. Well, two of the senators, sorry. So now we have a third on the motion to release, their audit. And this is the Wyoming State Contracts LSO program evaluation. I think we've been calling it an audit. Maybe I've been calling it audit, but program evaluation, so my apologies. Discussion on the motion to release. Senator James and Senator Boner, with the third by Senator Wasserberger, in case that wasn't clear. Any discussion on the motion? All right, so this is a release, so we will do a roll call on this, just to be, everybody's on the same page. This is similar, we treat it similar to a final approval of the bill, so let's do a roll call. Ms. Carla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a roll call vote to release the program evaluation on Wyoming state contracts. Senator Guru.
Senator Guru left an aye vote by proxy.
Senator James.
Aye.
Senator Perkins.
Absent.
Senator Wasserberger.
Excused, not absent, excused.
Excused. Thank
Absent.
you. Thank you, Senator Wasserberger. Representative Brown.
Aye.
Representative Gray.
I see. Thank you, Representative Gray.
You. Representative Sherwood. Aye. Representative Stivar.
Excused.
Senator Boner.
Aye.
And Chairman Barlow.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You received unanimous ayes to release the program evaluation report on Wyoming state contracting.
So I think we actually received 9 ayes and 8 ayes and 2 excused, right?
Two excused.
Okay, all right, perfect. So thank you very much. And I will pause here just for a moment and express my personal and our appreciation to our staff, to Ms. Smith and Ms. Nord for being here through the entirety of the evaluation, and to all those who pitched in toward the end and assisted with this. Thank you very much. We appreciate all the work. I actually think I'm very confident there will be changes made by some of the findings in this evaluation. And while this committee may not take up legislation immediately, I think we're going to give the executive branch a little opportunity to evaluate it more broadly, since it's not been seen by anybody but the 3 reviewing agencies and only by their senior management. So as the executive branch continues to look at it and our colleagues look at it as well, I'm sure there'll be more opportunities I'm confident we'll see changes based on what was provided and what was produced, and we owe that all to you, to our staff. So thank you very much for your dedication and your excellent work. So thank you very much. All right, what's next? There are a couple things on, next actually agenda item is, do we want to take up anything further or have suggestions for further actions from this one? And I guess my view at this point is, let's maybe ruminate on that a little bit. We do have some no bid contract issues that I think at some point need to be looked at, and I think there's some other components that came out in this evaluation that weren't actually evaluated. They were tertiary or secondary findings. But I guess in my view at this point is we let the subsequent management council and legislature decide how they want to direct our staff. Our staff right now is going to be tasked with research and other things in preparation for the session. So it's not like we need to have another evaluation coming at them or anything like that. So am I accurate in saying you're adequately employed for the short term, Ms. Smith?
Mr. Chairman, you are accurate on that.
Okay. All right. All right. Does anybody have any comments about anything else coming from this committee out of this particular state contracts topic? Okay. All right. I think we're at item number 10. All right. Ms. Sharp, if you want to maybe just give us an overview. And so committee at the last meeting, as you know, we had a discussion about the potential of having a bill draft regarding false claims, Medicaid, Federal False Claims Act, et cetera. And there was an incentive in federal law. There's an incentive that you would collect more money if you went through or had a conforming act, if you will, a conforming process to the federal statutes. When Ms. Sharp, and I'll say this short version of this, and Ms. Sharp can expand upon it. When Ms. Sharp called me and said this is I think she said 50, but maybe it was 70-page bill to accomplish this, I said, well, what's the gain? What are we going to get out of a 70-page bill on Medicaid that's just going to raise red flags and make people go, what's going on here? So I asked her just to kind of give us do a little background work to see if we'd had this in place over the last 3 years, what the gain would have been. And so that's the memo you have before you. So it's on me, the fact sheet. It's on me that you don't have a bill draft before you, because I didn't really want to, I didn't feel it was appropriate to task Ms. Sharp with a 50 or 70-page bill when we had one meeting left, and we didn't actually know what the potential gain was. So this is about, I think what Director Johansson says is the juice worth the squeeze? That is exactly what I think the director said. And so that came to mind as Ms. Sharp was telling me what we were looking at for a bill. And I said, okay, well, let's figure out if there's any juice in this. So, Ms. Sharp, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that's correct. As you recall, when you received the Medicaid fraud report from LSO, Donna Shippen pointed out that there is a provision in the federal Medicaid False Claims Act that provides an incentive for states to pursue medical or Medicaid fraud claims. And that incentive, though, actually requires the state, each state who wants to participate in it, to basically adopt about 25 different provisions that are set out in the Federal Medicaid Fraud Act. And I think you probably remember us talking about one of those main provisions is that it allows individuals, private persons, to actually bring actions against suspected violators, and they do so on behalf of the government. If you're a very, very large state with very large recoveries, that may be profitable, but in Wyoming, the recoveries are not that large in terms compared to California or New York. So what we did is ask the Attorney General's office to go back and look since 2019, had we participated in this federal incentive program, how much would we have actually earned or recovered? And what it came down to is that we would have only recovered about $160,000 extra dollars. And the reason for that is the way the federal Medicaid fraud statute and the regulations are written. It provides the bottom line is if you allow individuals, private persons to bring these actions, then if that person wins, depending on how much participation that person had and how many attorney's fees, basically how much effort they put into it, or whatever organization it is that they represent, that person recovers against the state's recovery. So you first have to pay the individual who brought the action, then the state gets their part. So where that becomes economically disadvantageous to Wyoming is in the multi-state cases, because the payout becomes so little for all the states that were involved that can be a very profitable business for private persons, but not so much for the little states who just don't have these huge multi-million-dollar recoveries.
Thank you. Senator James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to be clear, when you say the private person that ends up winning, are you talking about the person that was harmed?
Go ahead, Ms. Sharp.
Mr. Chairman, Senator James, no, it would be, so there are actually watchdog agencies that make a business of bringing whistleblower actions, lawsuits.
Helping
And
the
so
person
if those, usually I would say many times it's actually these agencies and private entities that bring these actions. And so if they were to win, then they make a living off of actually bringing these actions. The person who is the violator, that person will lose, and if you can collect against them, then they'll have to pay those funds back.
Go ahead, follow up.
So these entities are helping the person that was harmed?
No, so
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just the opposite. They are, the person that is harmed continues to be harmed. That person that's harmed doesn't profit
So
from
they're
these.
helping the violators?
No, I'm sorry. Did I say that wrong?
Who are these
I said that, I did,
organizations helping?
Mr. Chairman, I said it wrong. So the
just hold on.
violator is punished
Okay, so these private entities are helping the state.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And for that, they are being compensated, their full expenses plus, out of the state's portion of the additional
Okay,
recovery.
okay. Gotcha. Thank you very much.
All right, further questions? Further questions? So I think the question before us, committee, and I don't think this is a vote, is based on the information we have and this sizable ask that we be asking our colleagues to adopt 25 more federal requirements into state statute, which to me seems like a pretty tall ask. Do we want to actually have this bill drafted at this point, or do we want to sit on it and let the next committee, or maybe another committee like Labor Health, talk about it? Senator James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything we can do to this to kind of help out the victim? Is there anything we can do in this to help out, like a portion of this to help out the victim of any of this? I mean, of the Medicaid issue? I mean, that's what I would like to see happen.
Go ahead. You've actually looked at the federal law and the statute, authorizing statute, federal statute. So any suggestions there? Ms. Sharp?
Mr. Chairman, Senator James, in this case, when Medicaid, when funding is basically, when a fraud perpetrator receives the funds from Medicaid, the victim is actually the federal government and the state government, because what happens is the perpetrator is stealing money from the federal government and the state money. So this is a specific situation where the fraud is perpetrated on the state.
Now, to be fair, there could have been someone who received services, but they were not provided appropriately or under fraudulent terms.
Absolutely,
That is accurate.
absolutely, Mr.
Right.
Chairman.
All right. You have a follow-up, Senator James?
I used the wrong term on that, apologize. So the person that brought this to the attention of the government to prevent further claims, so it'd be the whistleblower. So the person that went through all this effort right now is, so for the state, I think it's pretty cut and dry, but for that disregard, never mind.
Representative Brown.
I think what the senator's trying to say is, if you have a bad actor that is filing a false claim on behalf of a patient, he wants the patient to be able to receive or recover some of those funds. To your point, what I believe is being said here is that there is no harm actually being done to the patient. The harm is being done to the government because the government is the one paying out those benefits. So I think I've got both sides wrapped up here, but the patient itself is what he's talking about. If there is a false claim filed against the patient, he would like the patient to be compensated in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. Further? Go ahead, Senator James.
But it wouldn't come through the taxpayer funds, it'd probably come through the person that committed the crime. So the taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for the person that committed the crime, it'd have to be through the person that actually committed the crime. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish here is, you know, does that make more sense now that I had help from?
I don't know that
Someone better.
I don't know that the Federal False Claims Act provides that avenue, would be.
Okay, I was just
would
seeing
be
if there
my
was something we
point.
could do, but.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. This is about recovering the federal government's and the state's money. And this is an avenue to help with that, an incentive to help with that for someone who wants to take that on. We end up paying them, the recipient of the initial service or the fraudulent service, they're just out of luck. I mean, yeah. So,
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
okay, all right. All right, committee we don't have to take any action on this. We can just say, well, we're going to set this aside, or we'll table it indefinitely. Unless there's an objection, we'll just table this indefinitely till the next management council or management audit committee convenes and decides if they want to look at it or not. So, all right, without objection, it's tabled indefinitely. All right. Anything else from our staff? No? Any public comment? One public comment. Anybody else online? Clarissa or nobody? Okay, thank you. Mr. Richard Garrett, welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, Richard Garrett. I'm a member of the Healthy Wyoming Coalition, and I believe you're all familiar with that. I want to thank you, though, for your attention to this issue and the manner in which you're dealing with it. Fraud is something that we all need to guard against. The fraud in this case is most often committed by people that are double billing the system, and that hurts the system. That hurts people that need help through Medicaid. So your attention to it, I guarantee you, is very much appreciated. And if I may, as an aside too, I want to thank this committee. I'm not sure, a lot of you are changing roles or moving to different roles, and I just really want to thank you all for your service to the state of Wyoming. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Any questions for Mr. Garrett? Thank you for doing your part as an advocate in our system,
Thank you.
even though you're the only one today. Even more important. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything at last moments from the staff?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
we still have a calendar date reserved for December 2nd. And did you want to vacate that for the next
All right,
management audit?
committee, is there any unfinished business that we feel compelled to try to address between now and December 2nd? That December 2nd date was basically there in case we had asked or had a bill draft and wanted to work a bill draft and finalize a bill draft on this False Claims Act incentive language. So, and I guess I made the, well, without objection, I tabled that indefinitely. So we can revisit that if we want to, but is there anything else that we need a date in December for?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead,
I
Representative
wouldn't
Brown.
say there's anything that we need to meet on, but I will say that we did have a very lively discussion on state employee compensation last time, and we were told that we would be receiving, or the ANI would be receiving, some updated information regarding the 2021 pay tables. And while I don't think it's necessary for the committee to form to hear their information on that, certainly when we receive the budget recommendation from the governor and that's worked through, I would like to see if we can get our staff to get a copy of that information and send it to us by that December timeframe if possible.
So, thank you for the reminder. So that request was made to budget, or whoever, budget department or whoever, A&I.
It was to A&I,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
So yeah, if you don't mind following up, just make sure that it's coming. We won't have a meeting for it specifically, but just keep it coming our way.
Forward that information. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll just make it available to all the legislature. I think that's appropriate. Just it may be the JAC is getting it too. Certainly don't want to duplicate anything JAC is getting, but if we're getting it in the context of the process and the budget process, let's just provide it to the entire legislature on behalf of our committee. All right, any further business for the committee? Chairman Boner, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Sorry to jump in, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let you know the next step, now that you've voted to release the report, is that we will send the executive summary of the report, the 2-page that is at the beginning of your report. We'll send that to every member of the legislature, along with the link where we'll publish this on the LSO website so that they have access to it. If there's any requests by media for comment, they'll come to the committee for that. They won't go to staff. So, but we should have that executive summary to the rest of the legislature Monday morning. And then we hope to provide to JAC a link to the full report, because they'll be meeting with ETS later that week. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect, thank you. All right, anything further from the committee? Senator Boner and I were visiting a little earlier about, next steps, and we're kind of going to leave it open for the next management council, the next legislature, and the next committee appointees to see how they want to proceed and start lining out things for the work that could be done in the next interim. As you all know, this is a statutory committee, not a rules-based committee. So if there's adjustments to be made in some way, that's where they would occur, is in statute, i.e. expand the duties, reduce the duties, don't touch the duties, etc. So, all right, no further business for the committee, no further business. Thank you to all for your work, your participation. This is the first management audit, or the first program evaluation in what, 5 years?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since 2018 in the state procurement and leasing.
So this is kind of the follow-up to that, and there may be a follow-up to this if some of you are so inclined when you're reassigned to this committee. Congratulations. Or not. All right, with that, no further business before the Management Audit Committee. Thank you all for your work. Thank you, Vice Chairman Boner. We are adjourned.